If a woman starts playing games, testing you, or trying to control your emotions, most men make one big mistake. They react, they chase, they explain, they lose control. But today, I'll show you exactly what to do instead. So you protect your peace, keep your dignity, and never lose yourself again. Let's be clear. This is not about hating women. This is not about revenge. This is about self-respect. Sometimes people test you. Sometimes they pull away, lie, manipulate, or play with your emotions. When that happens, your response decides everything. If you stay calm, you win. If you react emotionally, you lose. So here are 5 simple things to do when a woman plays dirty. Before we start, I'm currently working on the Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men course, and it's coming very soon. It is a complete step-by-step system designed to help you master your emotions, stop chasing, set strong boundaries, rebuild your confidence, and become the kind of man who is respected in every relationship. It breaks everything down in a simple, practical way, so you can truly understand these principles, apply them daily, and make them part of who you are for life. If you are ready to transform your mindset, your standards, and the way people treat you, comment the blueprint below so we know you want early access. Number 1, stay calm. The first thing you must do is stay calm. The second she changes, pulls away, becomes cold, starts acting distant, starts replying differently, starts becoming selective with her attention, starts making you feel like something shifted without giving you clarity, your mind immediately wants certainty, because uncertainty creates pressure, and pressure exposes the parts of you that still depend on outside validation. But this exact moment is where your whole life starts changing if you choose to handle it properly, because this is never just about her behavior. This is about what her behavior reveals inside you. And if you are honest with yourself, this situation is exposing more than just a relationship problem. It is exposing how quickly you lose your center when something important to you becomes unstable. How quickly you abandon your routines when your emotions become unsettled. How quickly you start bargaining with your own dignity just to keep access to someone who is clearly making you work for basic peace. And that is the painful truth many people avoid, because it forces them to face themselves instead of staying distracted by what she is doing. But growth starts the moment you stop making her the entire story and start looking at what this moment is teaching you about your mind, your habits, your discipline, and your emotional weak points. Because most people are not suffering because someone changed. They are suffering because they built too much of their inner stability around something outside of themselves. And the moment that thing becomes uncertain, they collapse into overthinking, panic, restlessness, sleepless nights, mental loops, constant checking, false hope, and quiet desperation. And if you are in that place right now, understand something clearly. The solution is not getting her back. The solution is getting yourself back, because somewhere along the way, without noticing it, you made her response more important than your peace. You made her attention more important than your direction, and now your nervous system is acting like her silence is danger, when in reality, the real danger is how fast you are willing to lose yourself, trying to hold on to someone who is already showing you instability. And this is why calm is not just advice. Calm is the foundation of your power, because when you stay calm, you stop becoming easy to influence. You stop becoming predictable. You stop becoming emotionally available to confusion. And you start seeing the situation for what it is, instead of what your fear wants it to be. Because fear always lies. Fear tells you that if you do not act now, you will lose her forever. Fear tells you that silence means something is wrong. Fear tells you that you need to explain, fix, chase, reassure, perform, and prove. But fear is what has kept so many people stuck in cycles that destroy their confidence and slowly make them resent themselves, because there is nothing more painful than knowing deep down that someone is treating you in a way that unsettles you, yet still choosing to stay in emotional chaos just because you are afraid to let go. And this is why staying calm is the first real act of self-respect, because it means you stop handing your mind to people who have not earned that level of access. It means you stop treating discomfort like an emergency. It means you stop letting your emotions drag you into actions that make you weaker later, because every impulsive message, every paragraph sent late at night, every attempt to force reassurance, every moment of emotional collapse might bring short relief. But it always leaves you smaller afterward, because you know you acted from fear instead of strength. And deep down, that chips away at your self-respect more than her behavior ever could. So the discipline you need right now is simple but powerful. Do not rush to solve what time is already exposing. Do not interrupt patterns that are revealing the truth. Do not rescue people from the consequences of their own choices. And do not keep stepping toward someone who keeps stepping back just because your discomfort makes stillness hard. Because stillness is where your clarity returns. Stillness is where you stop being led by panic. Stillness is where you begin seeing how much of your suffering comes not from her actions, but from your refusal to accept what is in front of you. And once you accept that, something shifts in you, because now you are no longer a person begging life to go your way. Now you are becoming someone who can hold his ground in discomfort without falling apart. Someone who can sit with uncertainty without collapsing into neediness. Someone who understands that not every silence deserves a response, not every distance deserves pursuit, and not every person deserves your emotional availability simply because you once cared deeply. And this shift affects every part of your life, because the ability to stay calm when things are unclear changes how you handle stress, business, setbacks, pressure, people, opportunities, and disappointment. Because life constantly tests whether your peace is truly yours or whether it still belongs to circumstances. And if one woman pulling back can destroy your focus, then the issue was never her. The issue was that your foundation was too dependent on what you could not control. But the good news is this. This exact situation can become the moment you finally rebuild yourself properly, because pain is often the first thing that forces honesty. And honesty is where real transformation begins. So instead of making her distance the center of your world, make this your wake-up call. Tighten your routines, protect your sleep, train your body, sharpen your mind, cut out distractions. Stop telling the same story to your friends looking for comfort. Stop replaying old conversations searching for clues. Stop building fantasy endings in your head and start becoming someone whose peace is no longer available for negotiation, because the truth is simple. The calmer you become, the more clearly you see. The more clearly you see, the less you tolerate. And the less you tolerate, the stronger your life becomes. And once that happens, you no longer fear losing people, because you finally understand that losing yourself was always the greater loss. And if this is the moment you realize how much your peace has been tied to things outside your control, then this is exactly why the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men exists. It is filled with timeless principles that help you master your emotions, set stronger boundaries, stop chasing what drains you, and finally build the kind of inner stability no one can take from you. And now, it is also available as an audiobook, so you can listen while walking, jogging, driving, or taking time alone to reset your mind and rebuild yourself. This is not temporary motivation you hear once and forget. This is life-changing wisdom you will own forever and be able to return to any time you need strength, clarity, or direction. It is linked in the comments, and if you are truly ready to stop suffering in silence and start becoming the strongest version of yourself, this is where that change begins. Number 2, Stop chasing. Never chase someone who is confusing you. The moment she becomes inconsistent, starts giving you mixed signals, starts acting warm one day and cold the next, starts making you question where you stand, while keeping just enough connection to stop you from walking away, you are standing at a crossroads that will either expose your weakness or begin your transformation, because this is the exact point where most people destroy their dignity without even realizing it. Not because she is irresistible, not because the connection is special, but because uncertainty activates every fear they have spent years avoiding. Fear of not being enough, fear of being replaced, fear of being left behind, fear of facing life without the comfort of emotional attachment. And these fears are what keep people chasing situations that have already made them smaller. Because chasing is rarely about love. Chasing is often panic dressed up as loyalty, and that distinction changes everything once you are honest enough to face it. Because if someone genuinely values you, you do not have to keep decoding basic respect. You do not have to keep analyzing tone, timing, effort, and attention like a detective trying to solve a mystery, because real interest does not keep you in emotional suspense. Real care does not keep you in a constant state of wondering, and real respect never makes you feel like you have to compete for the bare minimum. But many people stay trapped because they are addicted to the possibility of what something could become, rather than accepting what it already is. And that addiction is dangerous because it makes you ignore patterns that are clearly telling you the truth. It makes you excuse disrespect because you are attached to potential. It makes you rationalize inconsistency because you remember the good moments. And it makes you keep investing in situations that are draining your energy simply because you are too emotionally invested to walk away. But understand this clearly. Every time you chase someone who is already showing you uncertainty, you are sending a message to yourself that your standards are flexible whenever your emotions are involved. And once you teach yourself that, you become easy to manipulate, because now your principles disappear the second you are afraid to lose someone, and that is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself in life. Because if your values only exist when things are comfortable, then they are not values. They are preferences, and real strength is shown in the exact moments when you want to run after someone, but choose yourself instead. Because choosing yourself in these moments is not ego, it is survival, it is self-respect. It is the decision to stop making your emotional peace dependent on someone whose actions are already telling you where you stand. And yes, this is hard, because when you stop chasing, you are forced to face everything you were using that person to avoid: your loneliness, your insecurities, your need for validation, your fear of stillness, your discomfort with your own company. And that is why so many people stay in draining dynamics for far too long, because chasing gives the illusion of control. It makes you feel like you are doing something, like you are fighting for the connection, like you are keeping hope alive. But in reality, all you are often doing is delaying the truth and making the eventual clarity more painful, because deep down, you already know when someone is no longer showing up in the way they should. You already know when the effort is one-sided. You already know when you are the one carrying the emotional weight while she enjoys the comfort of knowing you are still there. And that is where you need to become brutally honest with yourself, because no one is coming to save you from your own lack of boundaries. No one is going to magically restore your self-respect while you keep abandoning it. And no woman is worth becoming emotionally unstable over, no matter how much history, chemistry, attraction, or attachment exists. Because the real cost of chasing is not just losing her respect, it is losing your own. And once that starts happening, every area of your life begins to suffer. Your focus drops, your work suffers, your body carries tension, your habits slip, your confidence fades, and your life starts revolving around emotional uncertainty instead of purpose. And this is why walking away from confusion is one of the most powerful things you can ever learn, because walking away is not about punishment. It is about refusing to build your life around people who thrive in ambiguity. It is about refusing to shrink yourself just to keep someone comfortable. It is about refusing to make someone your emotional center when they have not earned that role. Through consistency, clarity, and respect. And once you stop chasing, something incredible happens. You start getting your life back, your energy returns, your mind becomes quieter, your days stop revolving around your phone. Your confidence begins rebuilding from your actions instead of her responses. And for the first time in a long time, you begin to remember who you were before you made someone else's attention, the center of your emotional world. And that is where your real life starts, because the goal was never to become cold, bitter, or disconnected. The goal is to become grounded enough that no person can make you betray yourself just because they pulled away. And once you reach that point, you stop seeing distance as loss and start seeing it as information, because when she pulls back, becomes careless, acts entitled, or treats your presence like something she can pick up and put down whenever it suits her, she is not lowering your value. She is revealing her character, and your responsibility is not to chase her into becoming better. Your responsibility is to respect yourself enough to let her choices reveal the truth. Accept what you see without fantasy, and keep building a life so solid that your peace never again depends on whether someone chooses to stay. Number 3. Watch actions. Stop listening to sweet words. The moment she starts saying things that sound comforting while her behavior keeps creating confusion, you need to understand that this is where many people lose years of their lives, because they become attached to language instead of reality. And language is cheap when it is not backed by consistency, effort, and respect, because anyone can say what keeps you around. Anyone can give just enough reassurance to calm your doubts for another week. Anyone can use soft words, vague promises, emotional moments, and selective attention to keep access to you without ever truly giving you security. And this is why you have to become disciplined enough to judge patterns instead of moments. Because people reveal who they are in what they repeat, not in what they say when they sense they are losing control. And if you are honest with yourself, deep down, you have already noticed the pattern long before your mind is ready to accept it. You notice when she only reaches out on her terms. You notice when she disappears and returns without accountability. You notice when she gives effort only when she senses distance. You notice when she enjoys your presence but avoids responsibility. And the reason this hurts so much is not because you cannot see it. It is because accepting it forces you to stop lying to yourself. And that is the part most people resist, because fantasy is easier than truth when truth requires action. And this is why so many stay trapped in draining cycles, not because they are weak, but because they have not yet built the discipline to trust what they see over what they hope. And hope without discernment becomes self-betrayal very quickly, because every time you ignore obvious signs and choose to focus on the one good moment, the one affectionate text, the one vulnerable conversation, the one memory that still means something to you, you are training yourself to tolerate instability. And once you normalize instability, you slowly become someone who accepts emotional crumbs while telling yourself you are being patient, understanding, loyal, and committed, when in reality you are often just afraid to let go of the version of the story you created in your head. And this is where your growth starts, because watching actions is not just about spotting her behavior. It is about finally becoming honest enough to stop abandoning yourself in the name of attachment. Because real self-respect begins when you stop negotiating with what is obvious, when you stop needing more proof from someone who has already shown you enough, when you stop telling yourself that if you just hold on a little longer, explain yourself a little better, become a little more patient, or love a little harder, she will suddenly become the person you have been hoping she is. Because people are rarely confused about what they truly value. And when someone values you, it shows in their effort, their consistency, their tone, their presence, their willingness to protect peace instead of create confusion. And if she keeps you in uncertainty while still expecting access to your energy, understand what that means. She likes the comfort of knowing you are there more than she values the responsibility of showing up properly. And that truth is hard because it forces you to face a painful reality, which is that some people enjoy attention more than they respect connection. And if you do not learn to separate those two things, you will spend years chasing intensity while starving for peace. And peace is what actually matters, because attraction without respect is chaos, chemistry without consistency is instability, and emotional highs without safety always come at a cost. And the cost is usually your peace, your focus, your sleep, your standards, and eventually your identity. Because once you spend enough time trying to make sense of someone who thrives in ambiguity, you stop recognizing the version of yourself who once had clarity, structure, and direction. And this is why learning to watch actions changes your whole life, because it teaches you to stop living in reaction to words and start living in alignment with truth. It teaches you that your emotions are not supposed to override what is clearly in front of you. It teaches you that discernment is one of the highest forms of self-respect, because discernment protects you from investing deeply in situations that only look promising because you are attached. And once you develop this skill, everything changes. Because now you stop wasting years on people who are not serious. Now you stop confusing attention with care. Now you stop being impressed by temporary effort that only appears when someone senses you slipping away. And now you start building standards that actually protect your life, because standards are not about arrogance. Standards are what stop you from repeating the same painful cycles with different people. And once you understand that, you stop asking whether she means what she says and start asking a far more important question. Does her behavior create peace in my life, or does it slowly erode me? Because that answer tells you everything. And once you start living by that truth, you stop chasing explanations, you stop needing closure, and you stop wasting time trying to make sense of behavior that was always clear if you were brave enough to accept it. Number 4. Set boundaries. Boundaries are power. The moment she starts crossing lines, disrespecting your time, speaking to you carelessly, keeping you in emotional suspense, disappearing without explanation, returning when it suits her, expecting access without accountability, or testing how much confusion you will tolerate before you finally push back, you are standing in one of the most defining moments of your life, because this is where your self-respect is either strengthened or quietly dismantled. And most people do not lose themselves all at once. They lose themselves in small compromises, one excuse at a time, one tolerated insult at a time, one broken standard at a time, until one day they wake up and realize they have built an entire relationship around keeping someone comfortable at the expense of their own peace. And if that sounds familiar, understand this clearly. People do not always treat you badly because they are powerful. They often treat you badly because you taught them there would be no consequences for doing so. And that truth is uncomfortable because it forces responsibility back into your hands. But responsibility is exactly where your power lives, because once you stop seeing yourself as someone waiting for people to finally do right by you and start seeing yourself as someone responsible for what you allow into your life, everything changes, because now you stop hoping people will become better and you start deciding what behavior no longer gets access to you. And this is the essence of boundaries, not controlling others, but controlling what you participate in, what you tolerate, what you excuse, and what you walk away from. Because if you do not create limits, people with poor intentions will always test how much access they can have without giving you what you deserve. And this is especially true with someone who senses that your fear of losing her is greater than your commitment to yourself. Because once she knows that, she no longer has to respect your standards. She only has to give you enough to stop you from leaving. And that is how so many people become trapped in emotionally draining situations that slowly destroy their confidence, because they confuse patience with tolerance. They confuse understanding with self-sacrifice, and they confuse love with endless endurance. But real strength is not staying through every form of disrespect just because you care. Real strength is having the discipline to walk away the moment your peace starts becoming the price of access. Because peace is not something you earn after surviving chaos. Peace is something you protect by refusing to participate in what drains you. And this is why boundaries matter so deeply, because boundaries are not just about relationships. Boundaries reveal how much you actually value yourself when your emotions are involved, because it is easy to talk about standards when everything is smooth, but the real test comes when you are attached, when there is history, when you still want it to work, when part of you still hopes she will change, because that is where most people fold, not because they do not know what is right, but because they are scared of the discomfort that comes with choosing themselves. And this is where your life can truly change, if you are willing to do what most never do, which is stop negotiating with disrespect simply because you are emotionally invested, because every time you let something slide that clearly crosses your values, you weaken the trust you have in yourself. And self-trust is one of the most important things you can ever build, because without it, you become someone who knows what should happen but never acts on it. Someone who sees the red flags but still stays. Someone who keeps waiting for change while their own standards slowly disappear. And that quiet loss of self-respect is often far more damaging than the relationship itself, because it follows you into everything: your confidence, your posture, your focus, your decisions, your sense of identity. And this is why setting boundaries is one of the most transformative things you can do, because boundaries force you to become the kind of person who chooses long-term peace over short-term comfort. Boundaries force you to sit with discomfort instead of escaping it through attachment. Boundaries force you to become someone who does not need to threaten, beg, explain endlessly, or convince anyone to treat you properly, because once you truly value yourself, your energy changes, your presence changes, your standards become visible without words, and people sense that you are no longer available for games, because the truth is simple. The version of you that keeps tolerating disrespect is not protecting love. He is protecting fear, fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of losing the fantasy. But once you face those fears directly and stop making your life revolve around keeping someone who is careless, you become dangerous in the best possible way, because now your peace is no longer up for negotiation. Now your standards are not dependent on mood, chemistry, or attachment. Now you understand that anyone who truly values you will respect your limits without needing endless chances, and anyone who resents your boundaries was never looking for partnership. They were looking for access. And once you understand that, your whole life changes, because you stop trying to be easier to love and start becoming harder to misuse. And that shift alone will save you years of pain, wasted energy, and emotional chaos. Number 5. Focus on you. The moment you stop making her the center of your thoughts, your energy, your routines, your mood, and your sense of worth, your life begins to return to you in ways you have forgotten were possible, because the truth is, long before she pulled away, became distant, started testing you, or made you question where you stand, there were already parts of your life you had quietly neglected while giving too much importance to external attention. And this is the part most people never want to hear, because it forces radical honesty. Many times the pain you are carrying right now is not just because of what she did. It is because this situation exposed how much of your identity had become attached to being wanted, chosen, reassured, and emotionally validated by someone else. and that is a dangerous place to build your life from, because anything built on another person's consistency becomes unstable the moment their behavior changes. And when that happens, people often panic because they suddenly realize they have not been building themselves. They have been building emotional dependence disguised as love. And that is why this moment, painful as it may be, can become the greatest turning point of your life if you choose to use it properly. Because what feels like loss right now can become the exact thing that forces you to rebuild the parts of yourself that have been waiting for your attention for years. And that is where real transformation starts, not in getting her back, not in making her regret her choices, not in proving your worth to someone who failed to value it, but in becoming someone whose life is so grounded, disciplined, purposeful, and internally strong that no person can ever again become the source of your emotional stability. Because that kind of life changes everything. And this is where you need to become brutally honest with yourself. Because if your days are currently revolving around whether she texts, what she posts, whether she is thinking about you, whether she misses you, whether she regrets it, then understand that your attention is being stolen from the one place it should be invested. Your own life, and attention is your most valuable asset. Because where your attention goes, your life follows. And if you keep pouring it into confusion, fantasy, memory, and emotional suspense, your life will keep shrinking around the very thing that is draining you. But the moment you redirect that same energy into yourself, everything starts shifting in ways that are impossible to fake, because real self-respect is built through action, not through motivational thoughts. And this is where most people fail, because they want relief without responsibility. They want confidence without discipline. They want peace without sacrifice. But none of that is possible unless you start rebuilding yourself at the level of your habits, your routines, your body, your mind, and your standards. Because pain either weakens you or sharpens you depending on what you do next. And right now, you have a choice that will define the next version of your life. Either stay emotionally stuck in a chapter that is already teaching you what you need to know, or use this discomfort as fuel to become someone you have never been before. And that starts with simple but serious decisions made daily. Because transformation is never one big dramatic move. Transformation is what happens when you wake up and stop checking your phone first. When you stop replaying old memories during your workouts, when you stop talking about her every time you see your friends, when you stop feeding the pain with the same thoughts, same songs, same places, same habits, and instead begin creating evidence that your life is moving forward with or without her. Because forward motion heals what rumination keeps open, and the more you move, the less emotional weight you carry. Because movement gives your pain direction. So train harder, not because you want revenge, but because your body should never become a casualty of emotional chaos. Work harder, not because success will make her regret it, but because your purpose should never be paused, because one person became inconsistent. Sleep properly, eat properly, clean your space, fix your posture, improve your finances, build your discipline, because these are not distractions. These are the bricks that rebuild your identity when life exposes where you have been weak. And once you begin stacking these small daily wins, something powerful happens. You stop needing closure because your life itself becomes the closure. Your standards rise because your self-respect rises. Your confidence returns because you are proving to yourself every day that your peace does not depend on anyone else. And that is the deepest kind of power a person can have, because when you no longer need someone's attention to feel grounded, you become free in a way most people never experience, and that freedom changes how you walk, how you speak, how you think, how you choose people, how you leave situations that no longer serve you, because now you are no longer coming from fear, now you are coming from stability, and stability is what makes a person truly magnetic. Not desperation, not emotional intensity, not endless availability. Because people respect what respects itself. And when you become someone who no longer abandons his own path for temporary comfort, your whole presence changes, because now you are no longer trying to be enough for someone else. Now you are building a life that is already enough on its own, and that is what makes you powerful. Because the greatest shift in your life happens the moment you realize the real prize was never her attention. The real prize was becoming the kind of person who can go through disappointment, uncertainty, distance, and emotional pain without collapsing into weakness. Someone who can use pain as instruction instead of identity. Someone who can lose people without losing himself. Because at the end of the day, that is what truly matters. Not whether she comes back, not whether she regrets it, not whether she finally sees your value, but whether you use this moment to become stronger, wiser, calmer, and more disciplined than you have ever been before. Because if you do that, then what once looked like heartbreak becomes the exact reason your life finally changes for the better. Everything changes the moment you stop begging for clarity from people who benefit from your confusion and start building a mind no one can shake. If this truth hit you, comment, "I choose peace," if you are ready to take your power back and stop living at the mercy of someone else's behavior. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men is filled with timeless principles that help you master your emotions, set unshakable boundaries, and become the kind of man this world quietly tries to keep weak, distracted, and easy to control. It is now also available as an audiobook, so you can rebuild your mind while walking, jogging, driving, or sitting alone in silence. And because it is yours forever, this is wisdom you can return to whenever life tests you again. Like this video, subscribe so more men can find these truths before they waste years learning them the hard way, and get the ebook through the link in the comments before another day slips away.